Welcome to PM Ready, your guide to becoming PMP certified. This is the lesson on project work. In this lesson, we cover two processes: direct and manage project work, and monitor and control project work. Direct and manage project work integrates all of the other executing processes. And we also cover deliverables and approved change requests. Monitor and control project work integrates all of the monitoring and controlling processes. The lesson also covers the differences between work performance data, work performance information, and work performance reports. Both of these processes are part of integration management. Direct and manage project work is part of the executing process group, while monitor and control project work is part of the monitoring and controlling process group. The primary outputs of direct and manage project work are the deliverables themselves and work performance data, while the primary output of monitor and control project work is work performance reports. Let's start with direct and manage project work. This diagram illustrates how central this process is to all of the other executing processes. All of the other executing processes are integrated by this process. This is the process that is responsible for leading and performing the work that's defined in the project management plan. This is the process that does the actual work to create your project deliverables. And it encompasses entirely your scope, schedule, and cost executing processes, because you don't have separate executing processes for scope, schedule, and cost. Whereas with all of the other executing processes, they're all integrated by this direct and manage project work process. Let's take a look at the outputs of the direct and manage project work process, because it has some interesting and unique outputs. First on the list we have deliverables. This is the only process that has deliverables as its output. Even all of the procurement work and processes that you do in managing outside vendors, all of their deliverables are managed and output not from some procurement process, but from the direct and manage project work process. Next we have work performance data. These are the raw observations and measurements about the work that's being done. This is also the only process that has work performance data as its output. Next we have the issue log, which is updated in many different processes, but is first created only by this process. Next we have some common ones: change requests to make changes such as corrective changes, preventive changes, defect repairs, or updates to the project management plan and other documents, and updates that don't require change requests as well. These are common in many other processes. Deliverables. At what point do you decide to put your deliverables under change control? The answer is that change control should be applied once the first version of a deliverable has been completed. In other words, when you decide to then send it to quality control, at that point, even before it's been checked to see if it passes your quality requirements, you need to put those deliverables under change control. Your configuration management tools and procedures should be used to support this. That doesn't mean you can't use some configuration management tools while you're doing work in progress. This is often the case in software development, where you have code repositories and tools that you can use to keep track of the work that's being done and the changes that are being made many times during the day, even many times per hour. You can track changes along the way. This can be done for personal use, in which individuals on the team track their changes, but those changes aren't necessarily shared with the rest of the team. Or you may actually have some rules in place to ensure that you check in changes, even if they're just work in progress, in some central repository just for safekeeping. One thing that isn't clear from the PMBOK guide is how deliverables flow through the processes in project management. Deliverables are created as an output of the direct and manage project work process, and only that process. They then go to the quality control process, where they're compared to your quality requirements, and if they pass, their name is changed to verified deliverables. They then go to the validate scope process, which reviews the deliverables and these quality reports with your stakeholders to get them to accept these deliverables. And then, once accepted, their name changes to accepted deliverables. These deliverables are then used as inputs to the close project or phase process. And after the project is closed or the phase is closed, the output of that is still these deliverables, but again, the name has changed to final product, service, or result transition. All of these terms refer to the same thing, deliverables, but they're given different names depending on what their status is and how far they've gone through this workflow. Work performance data is an output of this process. This data is the raw observations and measurements from doing the project work. That raw data is then analyzed and compared with the plan and other documents and other information, and that analysis turns this into work performance information. That information then gets compiled into documents that are intended to generate decisions, to get people to take action, or to make people aware of the situation. And once information has been converted and compiled in that way, it's known as work performance reports. Here's the workflow of data, information, and reports. Direct and manage project work is the one and only process that creates work performance data. That is used then as an input to all of your monitoring and control processes. All of those processes then generate their own work performance information. And all of this work performance information from all these different monitoring and controlling processes is all funneled into the one and only monitor and control project work process, which is the only one that pulls all of this information together and generates work performance reports. As you can imagine, the inputs to the direct and manage project work process are just about everything. Everything that you've generated so far, all of the components of the project management plan, pretty much any of your project documents. There are a few specific ones listed that are quite common, such as the requirements traceability matrix, the project schedule, your milestone list, your project communications, risk register, risk report, lessons learned register, even your change log. But really it could be anything. Also specifically listed is approved change requests, and we'll get into that a little bit later, as well as some enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. When directing and managing project work, your enterprise environmental factors that can influence this work include, of course, your organizational structure, culture, management practices, governance, and all of that sort of thing. Also, the infrastructure that you have available to you, including facilities and equipment that you can use to do this work, and your stakeholder thresholds for risk, cost, schedule, quality, and so on. The organizational process assets that can affect your project work include your organizational policies, processes, and procedures, your issue and defect management procedures and information about issues and defects in your historical databases, your performance measurement database, your change control and risk control procedures, and your lessons learned repository with more historical information about previous projects. Let's take a closer look at this input of approved change requests. This makes sense because doing the project work involves implementing change requests as well. But notice that this is unique in that this is the only process that actually implements your change requests. Your corrective actions, preventive actions, defect repairs, even changes to your plans and baselines are all implemented by your direct and manage project work process. The approved change requests are an input to only two other processes: control quality, which has the responsibility to verify that the approved change requests have been properly implemented by the direct and manage project work process. And the other is control procurements, because these changes can change the contract, which may need to be updated. Change requests can come from just about anywhere, but they all must go through the Perform Integrated Change Control process, which decides whether or not they're approved or rejected, and if approved, they become approved change requests, which are then inputs to only three processes: direct and manage project work, which implements the change; control quality, which checks that the change was implemented; and control procurements in order to make necessary contract changes. Tools and techniques include expert judgment, your project management information system, and all sorts of meetings like kickoff meetings, technical, sprint planning meetings, your daily stand-ups, even steering group and problem-solving meetings, progress updates, and retrospective meetings. Your project management information system should have a number of tools to help you, including scheduling software, your work authorization systems, which specifically control when work can start on individual work packages, so that people don't start working on things before they should be. Configuration management systems, which are used to manage how changes are made to controlled items. Information collection and distribution systems, as well as useful knowledge bases. Do you remember the primary inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques of direct and manage project work? The primary outputs are the deliverables and work performance data, which come only from this process. Plus, just about anything can change or need to be updated as a result. The inputs are also just about anything, but of particular note is approved change requests, which are an input to this process, which is the only process that implements changes. The tools and techniques list is relatively short, with expert judgment and meetings, plus your project management information system. Now we switch to the next process, monitor and control project work, which is about tracking, reviewing, and reporting on the overall progress to meet the performance objectives defined in the project management plan. This is the process that allows stakeholders to understand the current state of the project, to recognize the actions taken to address any performance issues, and to have visibility into the future project status with cost and schedule forecasts. As with direct and manage project work, monitor and control project work integrates all of the monitoring and controlling processes of all of the other knowledge areas. In this case, however, it doesn't have scope, schedule, and cost integrated as part of it, but along with the other groups, all of the other knowledge areas, they're all integrated by monitor and control project work. A small note here about the difference between monitoring and controlling. Although these are grouped together into one process group, there is a bit of a distinction between the two. Monitoring is about collecting, measuring, and assessing the measurements and trends. coming up with insights into the health of the project, and identifying areas that need special attention. Controlling is more about determining corrective or preventive actions and replanning and following up on action plans. The primary output of monitor and control project work is the work performance reports, which are generated only from this process because it gathers information from all of the other monitoring and controlling processes and combines them into work performance reports here. Also, change requests to change things that need change control, and updates as a result of monitoring and controlling could include updates to or new issues discovered, risks, your project management plan, your cost and schedule forecasts, and of course any lessons you learn need to be put into the Lessons Learned Register. The inputs to monitor and control project work are the work performance information that come from all of the other monitoring and controlling processes, and just about anything in your project management plan and your project documents, because all of these contain the information you need to see the whole picture and monitor and control all of the project work, including agreements and contracts that you have with outside vendors, and some enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. The first item on the list of enterprise environmental factors is the project management information system, with all of the tools that you have for scheduling and cost and resource and performance indicators and databases and so on. It's interesting, isn't it, that the project management information system is listed here as an input under enterprise environmental factors, whereas under direct and manage project work, it's specifically listed as a tool. The next on the list is infrastructure, including your facilities, equipment, and communications that will affect how well you're able to and how you monitor and control project work. Your stakeholders' expectations and their thresholds can affect how closely you need to monitor the work. And government or industry standards and legislative and regulatory requirements can affect how you monitor and control project work. The organizational process assets listed include all sorts of things that are useful for monitoring and controlling project work. Your organizational policies, processes, and procedures are at the top of the list, naturally, but also your organization's financial controls, monitoring and reporting, issue and defect management, your process measurement knowledge base, and your lessons learned repository. Your tools and techniques include expert judgment and several different data analysis types of tools and techniques, starting with alternatives analysis, in which you can look at different possible corrective or preventive actions and try to choose between them. Your cost-benefit analysis that can help you in your alternatives analysis. Earned value analysis, which will give you lots of good information about your performance on your scope, schedule, and cost. Variance analysis to determine whether you're on track, and if not, how far off you are. Root cause analysis that you can use to get at the root causes of variances and issues. And trend analysis to indicate whether things are getting better or worse. Decision making that you'll need in order to choose between alternatives, and meetings. Now, how much do you remember of the inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques of monitor and control project work? The main outputs are your work performance reports, which come only from this process. Plus, just about anything can need to be changed as a result of this process, which may need some change requests for those things that are under change control. Inputs are primarily your work performance information, which comes from all of your different monitoring and controlling processes. And this information will need to be compared to your plan and your baselines and your agreements that you have with other vendors to come up with work performance reports and to see how things are performing and keep an eye on the project work, plus any number of other inputs. Your tools and techniques are primarily expert judgment, several different data analysis techniques such as alternatives analysis, cost-benefit, earned value, root cause, trend, and variance analysis, decision-making, and meetings. Key points to remember about the direct and managed project work include that it is the integration of all of the executing processes, that this is where the actual work, the project work, happens. This is the process that creates all of the deliverables before they're then checked, reviewed, and accepted in other processes. All approved change requests are done here. Work performance data comes in, and work performance information goes out. And this is the only process that generates work performance data. And some key points to remember about the monitor and control project work process are that it is the integration of all of the monitoring and controlling processes, that it is the one and only process that generates work performance reports. It does this by gathering up all of the work performance information from all of the other monitoring and controlling processes, as well as work performance data that it gets only from the direct and managed project work process. For more information, you can refer to these pages in the PMBOK guide. PM Ready is a publication of PM Guaranteed and is based on the Project Management Institute's PMBOK guide.